There is something I want to tell you, and honestly, this is a page I never wanted to write. I was 31 years old, had a good job, good name. I was the daughter my parents introduced at every gathering with their full chest. But somewhere along the way, I had become very good at being everyone except myself. And it happened in a way that looked exactly like success. It all started in the kitchen when I was 12. My mother was frying plantain when I put my report card on the counter beside her. 5 A's, 1 B. She looked at it, turned the plantain over, and slowly said, "Your cousin Ngozi got all A's last term." She didn't shout at me, nor punished me, just that one sentence. I went to my room that day and made myself a promise, never again. Not because I feared her anger, but because I could not bear that silence. That was the day I began to believe that being a good daughter meant never disappointing the people I loved. I just didn't know what that belief would eventually cost me. By 24 years, life looked right from every angle. I had good degree, respected job, money was going on from me. In fact, I was the one everyone called for everything. But nobody saw what I had become. I was a mirror, not a person. The version I showed my mom, my friends, my colleagues were all different. I adjusted and reflected whoever was standing in front of me. Around that time, a man came into my life. He was quiet, steady, and very hardworking. Of course, my mother liked him. My auntie said he was of good character. My father nodded in the way that meant this one is acceptable. And so I had no choice but to say yes. Not because something inside me recognized him, no, but because I had no internal compass, no clear sense of what I valued, what I needed, what I would not live without. I just borrowed everyone else's yes and called it my decision. Little wonder I kept waiting for the feeling of love to arrive, but it never did. Rather, what came instead was a quiet dread I could not explain. And so, after 8 months, I ended the relationship. And you know the worst part? I could not even defend my own decision, not because it was wrong, but because I never learned to trust my own voice enough to stand behind it. And that was the pattern. Every time a man approached me, I did not ask, "Do I want this?" I asked, "Will my family approve?" I was outsourcing the most intimate decision of my life to people who would not have to live it. And so in my quiet moments, I was terrified of one question. Who am I when no one is watching? Then came this night everything broke open. I was sitting in a car outside my building with my boyfriend named Emeka. We've been carefully seeing each other for 4 months. That particular day, he asked me, "Adaeze, what do you actually want? Not what works for you. What do you want?" I laughed, the quick kind, designed to close a conversation before it requires a true answer. "I really don't mind." "I know you don't mind," he cut in. "That's not what I asked." I have handled family crises, answered difficult questions in boardrooms, held things together when everything was falling apart. But you see, this question, it went somewhere inside me that nothing had ever reached. I wasn't confused. I was empty. Outside, I was fine. Inside, I was meeting myself for the very first time. 31 years, and I did not know myself. Well, Emeka drove home shortly thereafter. I went upstairs and opened my wardrobe looking for something else. At the back, I saw a folder, 6 years old, untouched. It contained stories I had written late at night, alone, with the version of myself that existed when nobody was watching. The lecturer had once told me my stories were genuinely good. I had laughed and quickly dismissed it. I took the folder out and sat on the floor. I did not open it, I just held it. And finally, I understood. I had not just buried the writing, I had buried the only honest version of myself that had ever existed. A woman trying to build a life without a self is like building a house without a foundation. Everything looks fine from outside until something shakes it. Then you discover there was never anything solid underneath. What I have to learn was not how to stop loving my family, no, but to stop outsourcing my identity to everyone who loved me. Because a woman who does not know herself does not choose freely. She waits for consensus, performs the roles, merges into whoever will have her, and call it love, when it is often just relief. Relief that someone wanted her, that everyone approved, until the approval stops. And she's left alone with the question she would have answered years ago. Who am I? What do I actually value? What is mine? And what have I simply been performing? Well, I went back to writing. Not immediately, but I went back. And the woman who returned have learned something that changed everything. You cannot choose the right relationship until you know yourself. You cannot build a real life on borrowed identity. Becoming yourself is not just opposite of loving your family. It is the very foundation from which you can truly love anyone. You can be a good daughter, my dear daughter, and still become your own person. My family wasn't the problem, I came to realize. It's only that I allowed their expectation to become the way I measured myself. So my dear daughter, know yourself first. Everything else depends on it. So for my daughter beginning your journey, know that finding yourself is not simply discovering what you like. It is learning what you are genuinely made of. Being honest about where you still need to grow. Deciding where you're going and standing there even when the people you love disagree. It is time you start asking the right questions. What do I actually believe? What do I genuinely want? What would I choose if nobody's face was telling me the answer? Because the longer you wait, the longer you spend time building a life in someone else's name. For daughters who are wives, some of you carry the good daughter identity straight into your marriages. If you've been performing goodness instead of living it, your husband is yet to know who he actually married. Neither do you. So when you don't have a strong sense of who you are, you can slowly disappear into the relationship. Your husband's mood becomes your mood, his ambition replaces yours. One day the resentment certainly arrives, not because he is terrible, but because you gave endlessly from yourself that was never fed first. In marriage needs a woman who knows herself and chooses from that place of knowing to love her husband honestly. This is the foundation that lasts. For daughters who are mothers, the quiet and most devastating consequences of a woman who never finds herself is that she raises children the same way she was raised, trained to please, not to know themselves. It is difficult to teach a daughter how to know herself when you have never been given permission to know yourself. So the pattern does not stop with you. It travels into your daughter's choices, a relationship, a silence, until one of you decides to stop it. Let it be you. But a good man listening. If you love a woman who cannot tell you what she wants, understand that this did not begin with you. No, she learned long before you arrived that making herself smaller was the price of belonging. So rather than condemn her, ask her what she thinks, then wait. Listen as though her answer is the most important thing in the room. Do not rush her. Do not feel her silence. What she is reaching for may be the first honest thing she has said in years. If something in this story sat with you, if you recognize yourself somewhere inside it, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Just say what you felt, because somewhere reading your words will be a woman carrying this alone, and your honesty may be the thing that finally makes her feel less lost. If there is a woman in your life who needs this page, pass it to her gently. She will know why you sent it. And to the next page, my daughter. Choose wisdom.